My wife engaged in an extramarital relationship with a colleague. I am in urgent need of assistance and guidance. The following acronyms and phrases will be utilized. Significant other. Other betrayed spouse. I was informed that my wife, aged 28, had an affair with her former supervisor, aged 35, who is currently married. He is a father to children. We have been married for 5 years and were high school sweethearts. We were each other's first romantic relationships and first experiences of romantic attachment. When we were young, we lived in the same neighborhood. She has always been a constant presence in my life. We both came from broken homes, but we always had each other and created a relationship that differed from the experiences of those around us. The environment in which we were raised may have influenced our perceptions, but I now question whether I was simply misguided. I continue to work remotely, while my wife has since returned to an in-person setting. There is a dearth of women in her field, and she previously confided in me that her role was more aligned with a boys' club, as she referred to her affair partner. The individual in question, who was still her supervisor at the time, was regarded as one of the more favorable ones. Recently, my wife received a promotion, which I was pleased to see. She was now a supervisor herself, a role which came with a few new responsibilities, including having to take a few business trips during the year. Her inaugural excursion occurred last Wednesday through Friday, prior to her departure. I informed her that I would be supporting her from home, and she replied that she would be leaving her heart with me and to take care of it. This is a common refrain between us. On Monday, she returned from work early. I could immediately discern that something was amiss. My wife's demeanor was visibly overwhelmed, and she had a red mark on her right cheek. Given that my wife is pale and tends to bruise easily, I inquired about the cause of her distress. In response, she merely requested a hug, expressing her desire to feel my embrace. I complied, and after a few moments, she informed me of an incident that had occurred at work. She then proceeded to make a confession that had a profound impact on me and resulted in a significant upheaval in my life. She had engaged in sexual intercourse with her former supervisor during the team leader trip. Initially, I was unable to fully process the information. It was as if I was observing the event from the perspective of an external observer or as if I was experiencing a dreamlike state. Had I been made aware that the incident was a cruel joke, would have been more inclined to accept it as such, rather than confronting the reality of the situation. Throughout her confession, I remained silent, not offering any verbal response. I was simply in a state of shock. Cheating is a sensitive topic for me, as it is for many individuals. My own family was devastated by an affair my father engaged in. I was the one who discovered his infidelity. My wife observed the detrimental impact of infidelity on my family and was aware of my struggles as a result. She had previously witnessed my emotional distress over this issue during our teenage years and provided comfort. In a reversal of roles, the man's own wife discovered his infidelity and confronted him and my wife at work. The confrontation became a scene with employees and customers present. The woman called my wife white trash and slapped her. After the slap, other employees intervened, and the woman my wife then contacted her older sister, who informed her that she had reprimanded her and advised her to inform me of the affair. She also stated that I needed to hear the details from her sister. Despite this, I remained silent. She then requested that I speak up, but I was unable to do so. In the moment, I was unsure of how to proceed. I felt that I needed to know what had transpired on the trip. My wife informed me that on the second day of the trip, she had gone out for drinks with the other team leads. She stated that the group had stayed out late and that she felt compelled to participate in order to foster a sense of team bonding. Throughout the night, each team lead had wandered off. Subsequently, the two were the only individuals remaining in the room, where they proceeded to listen to music. The former supervisor repeatedly complimented the woman on her appearance and stated that, were he in a position to do so, he would be unable to refrain from engaging in sexual intercourse with her. He eventually initiated a kiss. My wife informed me that she is unsure of the exact sequence of events that transpired. She stated that she was not thinking clearly and allowed him to continue kissing her, which then progressed to him groping her. They proceeded to engage in sexual intercourse. I did not request further details as I found the situation distressing and stood up from the couch. I informed her that I wanted to stop and she attempted to grasp my hand, but I moved away and stated. She then attempted to touch me, but I refused. She became visibly distressed and began to apologize profusely, expressing remorse and regret for her actions. She stated that she felt it was the biggest mistake of her life and that she hated herself for what she had done. She also expressed a desire to take it back, stating that she only loved me and that the alcohol had clouded her judgment. I informed her that it was imperative that she leave the premises. She needed to contact her sister to arrange transportation. She arose from the couch, visibly distressed, and attempted to embrace me. However, I evaded her grasp. She implored me not to take this action, promising to resign from her position, provide me with complete access to her mobile device, and engage in counseling. I was unable to comply. Together, I informed her that if she was not going to leave the house, would be leaving. I did not even stop to pack a bag, I simply proceeded to the door. She attempted to stop me from leaving by grasping my arm. She continued to plead with me not to do this, stating that, given everything we have been through, this could not be the outcome. Despite everything, the dissolution of our relationship was emotionally devastating. I had developed a profound attachment to her, a love that surpassed my previous expectations. However, she had effectively shattered my emotional stability. She had effectively destroyed the foundations of our shared life and future. In response, I sought solace in the company of my mother. I am currently residing at my mother's house. I am unsure how I managed to maintain my composure during the drive, but upon arrival, I found myself overwhelmed with emotion. I believe my mother has never witnessed me shed tears as an adolescent or adult. The only individual who has ever observed me in such a state is my wife. I did inform my mother of the events that transpired because I was uncertain how to proceed. I informed her of the situation, and I arrived at her residence in a manner that did not elicit any judgment from her. She permitted me to stay for as long as I needed and attempted to provide some words of comfort. Since I left, my wife has been contacting me frequently via phone calls and text messages. However, I have not responded to her messages and have not written back. She has been imploring me to return home and communicate with her, inquiring about my whereabouts and urging me not to abandon our relationship. I am experiencing a profound sense of emotional distress. I had presumed that I was adequately equipped to cope with such pain, but I have come to realize that it is an entirely different experience to endure it firsthand. I had always assumed that my wife would not engage in infidelity. I held the conviction that such an act would irreversibly damage our relationship. However, I am now contemplating the possibility of reconciling with her and seeking counseling to salvage our bond. I find myself reflecting on the rich history we have shared and the profound love I have for her. I recall how we were a perfect fit, like two pieces of a puzzle. I am uncertain as to the appropriate course of action. I am unsure how to proceed. I am at a loss. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone for the advice, concern, and resources. I have not been able to respond to every comment or message, but I appreciate them all. The past week has been the most excruciating. I feel like a helpless child again, watching as the world around me falls apart while I am going through it without my wife, who has been my best friend and support. I was certain that I did not have the whole story, so yesterday I looked into contacting OBS. I knew that I needed to hear in order for me to gain some clarity. She would have to have no ulterior motive, such as lying or withholding information. I located her Facebook account and sent her a message via Messenger. She responded within 10 minutes, offering to video call immediately. I replied that I was available. Upon observing her, I could discern that she was experiencing a similar degree of distress to my own. She proceeded to inform me that, shortly after being escorted out of the workplace last Monday, she had attempted to establish contact with me but had been unable to locate my contact details. She also revealed that, in her final conversation with my wife, she had made a threatening remark. She stated that she was going to inform me of the details at a later time. During this conversation, I was preoccupied with the memory of my wife's hasty return home and her sister's assertion that I needed to hear about the affair from her. I inquired if she possessed additional knowledge about the events that transpired during the team leader's visit or if this was the extent of her involvement. The information she provided corroborated my suspicions. The affair commenced prior to the trip, as evidenced by text messages that indicated a profound emotional attachment. I was privy to all of this information via OBS, which was shared with me via screen share. I found the situation overwhelming. She informed me that in January, she observed her husband to be withdrawn and disinterested. Furthermore, she observed a lack of interest and engagement from her husband towards her. On several occasions, she noticed him texting my wife, but he would dismiss it as professional communication. On the day before the trip, she went to the office to drop something off and had forgotten. She discovered it in his office with my wife standing close together, joking and smiling. She stated that the atmosphere between them was suggestive when they noticed her. They separated, and my wife's demeanor appeared distressed while her husband proceeded to investigate the matter further. She stated that it was at this point that she became convinced that her husband and my wife were involved in an affair. However, she did not address the issue immediately because she wanted to be certain of the facts before taking any action. This evidence substantiates the assertion that her husband was unable to evade the situation. On the night in question, she bided her time until he fell asleep and then accessed his phone. She proceeded to peruse his text thread with my wife, where the evidence was readily apparent. The texts were of an intimate nature and had been exchanged prior to the trip. Initially, the interaction was characterized by emotional involvement. The texts revealed that the other party was engaging in infidelity and that my wife was a fair partner. It was evident from these texts that the other party was the pursuer and that my wife was the SL aggressor. However, it is irrelevant whether she was the pursuer or the SL aggressor because she never rejected his advances. The texts revealed a pattern of behavior indicative of a fair partner bashing his wife and discussing repeated miscarriages. The content of the texts was disturbing and included references to my wife in a way that was disrespectful and inappropriate. There were also texts from last Thursday night with a fair partner inviting my wife to join the team for drinks. The following morning, my wife received texts from a fair partner that clearly indicated they had sex. It is worth noting that there were no further responses from my wife after Thursday night. I had assumed that I could not inflict further emotional distress, but I was mistaken. OBS stated that it took her considerable effort to remain calm, as she was reluctant to alert her sleeping twins. She did not wake her husband or immediately confront him. She stated that she had reached the point of no return and that he had crossed a line that could not be undone. She said that she was angrier than she had ever been during their marriage. She was determined to humiliate him in a manner that he had humiliated her. Therefore, she feigned happiness and acted as though everything was fine. She waited until Monday to reveal his infidelity at work, in front of his colleagues, subordinates, and clients. She stated that this confrontation had been brewing for some time. It was apparently only a coincidence that she was at work on that day. Upon observing my wife in a relationship with a man of integrity, OBS initiated a campaign to discredit my wife. When OBS began to publicly condemn my wife attempted to intervene but was unsuccessful. OBS then proceeded to accuse my wife of exhibiting no signs of remorse but only anger at her public outburst. I subsequently learned that a man named Fair Partner was dismissed from his position the following day following the confrontation. Additionally, my wife informed me that she had evicted him from their residence. One of the most challenging aspects of her experience was having to explain this situation to her twins. I had an understanding of her perspective because I had observed my own mother having to do the same thing after my father's departure. She stated that this entire episode demonstrated the true nature of her husband and, despite his pursuit of my wife, she still held my wife responsible for her role in the affair. She also expressed that, as a woman, she had no sympathy or respect for my wife. I reassured her that I did not blame her for her actions. She asserted that she had every right to hold such views and even offered an apology for her husband's role in the affair. I was momentarily at a loss for words and then offered an apology for the part my wife played. She then made the observation that we are now members of a club that neither of us had ever wanted to join. This club, she suggested, had been forced upon us by our respective significant others. She then proceeded to inquire about my wife and me. I informed her that I was unsure of my future actions but that I informed her that I was not currently residing with my wife. She expressed her best wishes, and I reciprocated. Before concluding the call, we exchanged contact information, should we wish to communicate further. The intensity of our emotions was palpable. I shared the details of my conversation with my mother, who did not express any judgment. However, I sensed her displeasure with my wife. I experienced a sense of joy at the prospect of a fair partner losing everything, including his job and family. It is possible that he is also suffering, but I am not proud of this thought. At the same time, I feel immense guilt because a wife is losing her husband, and children are losing their family as they know it. These children are in for a whole world of pain. I also feel anger towards my wife for doing this to us and for breaking our vows. Furthermore, she has put my health in jeopardy. After she returned from her trip, we did have sex. Text messages from the trip suggest that contraceptive measures were not employed. It is evident that I should re-establish communication with my wife regarding the information provided by the other betrayed spouse and demand a timeline. However, I am experiencing a sense of increased confusion and uncertainty, akin to the feelings I had when I initially made my post. I am overwhelmed and uncertain about the best course of action. It is possible that I will simply request a divorce and present it to her as a solution.